Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. 9thWH12152020, please, all quiet, please, thank you. Let's go ahead and have open your notes where we're going to be continuing looking at conquest, exploration and conquest of European countries in the Americas and later Africa and parts of Asia, and it's just going to become like a big deal, right? Let me see, how far did we get last time, looking at over your notes and so forth. Let's see, who did we get? Spain gets lots of territory. Yes, Magellan, we got to Magellan, right? Did they have a big celebration for Magellan when he arrived back in Spain? Why not? He went all the way around the world, didn't he? He didn't? Why didn't he get all the way around the world? He died. Yeah, he died. Where did he die? Yeah, he got into a bit of an argument. I want to say in the Philippines, I think it was. Yeah, and he got killed on the shores. So, yeah, he didn't make it all the way around. Somebody else tried to take credit for it and so forth. That's just terrible. So, in any event, in here, let's kind of look at the big picture. Reminder, when you guys get back here on after the break, you're not here on the Monday. You are here on the Tuesday, and then you're here on the Thursday. On Thursday, that's when we're going to have the quiz on Chapter 20. You want to make sure you are ready for that. And then really soon after that, we're going to have the test on this unit because we're really getting close to wrapping this unit up. And then we're going to be getting started on probably a smaller version of the next unit and then continuing on as we move forward. Okay. One thing, some of you guys have got your papers back because yesterday, did you know there was a presidential election yesterday? Yeah, there's a presidential election yesterday. Our Constitution sets up presidential elections so they take place in bits and pieces. So on November 3rd, the voters voted for electors who were designated based on who they supported for president. So yesterday we found out that the electors, 306 of the electors voted for Biden and Harris. Okay? And then the remainder voted for Trump and Pence. That wasn't a big surprise. What was going on in the days between the November election and yesterday? Lots of court cases and various different things. The Trump campaign obviously interested in having a different result than maybe what occurred on the Tuesday, the first Tuesday in November. But those got sorted out through the courts and various different things, and so that's pretty much all done. And so a number of you guys either turned in the paper or sent me an electronic version of your predictions, and so those are in your grades now. In fact, some of you guys will look at your quarter grade, and you've got this crazy big quarter grade. If you look, did you see your quarter grade? It's probably like 100 million%. You know, you're getting my class for second quarter, right? But if you look at the semester grade, that's the one that really counts. So some of you guys have given yourself a little bit of a nice little boost as we go into the quiz, and then really more importantly into the test, which is going to be covering this entire unit. Sorry about that, guys. The entire unit. And we'll make sure that we have enough time in here to do a full review. That's going to be a 65-question test, mostly like matching, true, false, things like that, covering everything. Okay? So Biden was chosen president. Anybody have any idea when Biden was actually is going to be taking the oath of office at his inauguration? Yeah?
January 20th.
Perfect, January 20th. We do that every 4 years, January 20th. And typically, and it's happened with all of the presidents that I'm aware of, at least the ones that are leaving office. I mean, sometimes like Kennedy was shot and killed, so Lyndon Johnson took the oath of office on an airplane back from Dallas, Texas to Washington, D.C. That kind of sucked. But if it's a normal, like somebody gets elected and they take the place of somebody else, then the previous president is there. So like when Donald Trump was inaugurated, Barack Obama was there. When Barack Obama was inaugurated, George W. Bush was there for that transition one. Probably it was an uncomfortable one. George H.W. Bush, he ran for re-election, number 41 right there. He got beat by Clinton. And so there he is, like at Clinton's inauguration. Interesting question whether or not Trump will be present at the inauguration ceremony for Biden. There's some speculation that he might have something else planned that day, but we'll see. But as of January 20th, we'll have another picture on the wall. And yes, I'm still getting that sorted out as to exactly how that's going to be, because I know that really matters to some of you guys, especially if you're looking at the wall, right? Does that matter to you? Really? And you're okay with if I just sort of push my Uncle Reed's poster to the side and just stick another thing there? That's not okay? You want symmetry? You want it balanced? You guys want balance? Okay, fine. We'll have balance. I'm working on it. I've actually got some ideas about how that's going to be played out. So I think that's going to work out pretty cool. Okay? Are you guys ready to dive back in? Okay? All right, so here we go. Which was the first European country that set sail into the Atlantic Ocean and started discovering things and discovered a route to get to Asia? That's right, Portugal. Which was the second one that went out there and hired like this Italian guy, Christopher Columbus, and he discovered the New World? Country. Who hired him? Who hired him? The king and queen of that country hired Christopher Columbus. And then when he got there, he's like, I'll put down the flag and claim it in the name of England. England was the country that first discovered the New World? No, it was not. It was not. Do we have another alternative? See if you agree with this suggestion. Was it Spain? Yeah, it was Spain. In fact, actually, we'll just go back one slide here. Ferdinand and Isabella were the king and queen of Spain, and they hired Columbus. So again, he's Italian, but he's working for Spain. And then they hired him for 3 more voyages. And so Spain, make sure you write this down. Spain is putting up its flags all over the place. And they will start consolidating and taking control of islands in the Caribbean, parts of Central America, large parts of South America. Write that down. We're going to actually show you ultimately a map that's going to show you that massive Spanish Empire. And yet, take note of this. What other countries are going to start sending their ships out and going, I don't care if Spain's been here, or they haven't been here, and they put their flags here, there, and everywhere. Give me one European country. After Portugal and Spain, what are there? There's 3 more. Significantly, 3 more. Give me one. France, yes, good. Give me another one. England, very good. Give me another one. Netherlands is right. Netherlands is right. So we'll see those are going to be like the latecomers. In your handout, which you should have in front of you, you will see, because this is going to be very helpful when we get to the test, because when you get to your handout, you'll see on page 3, I've got like where the Netherlands, the Dutch go, and that's going to be on the test. You're going to see it on the map as well. You need to know where the British go, where the French go. You need to know where the Portuguese and the Spanish go. That's right. So we're moving on from just Europe to Europe is starting to make a real dent and impression in the rest of the world. So you're going to need to know that. So have that out. It's very important. We actually get through, I'm anticipating we're going to get through several of these bullet points as we go through page 3 of the handout there. Okay? So Spain is going to, Spain does a really good job in these early years. Okay? It's fascinating because by the time we get to the end of this unit, Spain's already on the decline. And when we get into the early 1800s, guess how much of the Spanish Empire they're going to lose? Almost all of it. There'll be lots of Spanish-speaking areas of the world, but Mexico is going to be independent, and Peru, Colombia, Argentina, Chile, etc. They're all going to become independent by the early 1800s. But in the early stages, this is what we're talking about, they're moving. They're taking this, they're taking that. Magellan is figuring out a way to get across the Pacific. And the Spanish, make sure you have this, they're going to lay claim to the Philippines. So you're going to see Spanish territorial control of large parts of South America and Central America. Heck, they would like to take all of North America. But there's going to be 2 countries in particular that are going to show up in North America, actually 3. The Netherlands. Raise your hand if you can tell me. What was the name of that city? Actually, I'll tell you the name of the city. You tell me, raise your hand if you can tell me, what is the name of that city today? It's a Dutch city on the coast. It's in North America. It's in the United States, actually, today. They called it New Amsterdam, named after the Dutch city of Amsterdam. And then they sold it to the British. They moved out. Yes? New York is right. 2 of our presidents have descent from the original Dutch settlers there. If you look at president number 32 and president number 26, Roosevelt, it's a Dutch name. Their ancestors go all the way back to the time when the Dutch were in North America. The Dutch are going to get out, for the most part, in North America. There's going to be a fight between Britain and France. Who's going to win between Britain and France in North America? That's right, in the 7 Years' War, also known as the French and Indian War. Very good. Okay? So we'll see these European countries are going to be moving on kind of the aftermath of the original sort of Spanish claims and discoveries and so forth. Way to go, Magellan. Figures out a way to get around the world. Boom. Now, let's turn our... Oh, yeah, and he died in the Philippines because he got into a fight with some of the local people. Don't upset the locals. Don't try and force too much on the locals because otherwise they might poke holes in you before you have a chance to get back on the ship. Now, let's talk about some people who are going to be among what are called Spanish conquistadors. Are you ready? Conquistadors. What are conquistadors going to be involved in? What do you think conquistadors are going to be involved in? Marin, what do you think a conquistador is going to do? If somebody comes along and goes, I'm a conquistador, what's he going to do? Let's just put it this way. You are like a local native person living in America, and I'm a conquistador, and these are my conquistadors that are coming with me. What are we going to do?
Bad.
For you it is. Something good for us. Anybody know what a conquistador is involved in? Yep. We're going to take over. Yeah, we're going to take over. Write this down. The Spanish conquistadors are going to be the ones that are going to take over. And typically, like with Hernan Cortez, take a look at the map here. This is going to be most helpful. So he's Spanish. He's a conquistador. And he is going to set sail from some of the original Spanish-controlled areas in the Caribbean, and he's going to make his way to what is now known as Mexico. And he discovers that there is an empire there. It's a pretty good-sized empire. It's a pretty powerful empire. It's the Aztecs. And he wants the Aztecs to be under his control, or Spain's control. So he's going to take them on. Conquistadors, they're doing it for Spain. Here's some other things they're doing it for. Write it down. God, gold, and glory. I love that. You can remember the 3 G's. God. What do you mean God? What do these conquistadors have to say about God? They like him. Yeah, what particular religion do they follow? Well, they're from Spain. Is it Christian or Islam or Jew? It's Christian. All right. Within the Christian choices we have, is it Catholic, Protestant? Catholic. Spain is very, very Catholic. Yeah, Spain is one of those countries. If you go back to the time, actually, the people that hired Christopher Columbus, Ferdinand and Isabella, they were all about, anybody who's not Catholic, get them out of Spain. And there were quite a number of Jews and Muslims that were in Spain at the time. They're like, get the heck out of here. And Protestants never had a chance to lay foot in Spain. So when they say God, write this down. This is going to be important because we'll see in this. One of the motivations for conquistadors, maybe not their top motivation, this is going to be more of motivation for missionaries, is to spread the faith to the native population. You got that? In fact, that was one of the reasons why Magellan got poked, because he felt very strongly about his Catholic beliefs, and the people around him on the native population in that island, they didn't agree with him. He was a little bit too pushy, so, didn't work out very well for him. So you'll see various different groups will be spreading, and for the Spanish, write this down, it's the Catholic faith. And so when you go to countries that are founded by Spain, you're going to see the most prevalent religion is the Catholic faith. You go to Mexico, what's the most popular religion? Catholicism. Brazil, Catholicism. Actually, this is the Portuguese area. Argentina, Peru, Colombia, Ecuador, Catholicism, Catholicism, Catholicism. Once the Spanish get control of it, the Catholic faith is the faith that is going to be encouraged and spread throughout that area. You got that? Okay. Gold and glory. All right, gold. What are they looking for? Gold, heck. What are you talking about? They want gold. In fact, they'll go and they'll see some of these big cities that got gold, this, that, and so forth. They're like, I want to get my hands on some of that gold. And if they can't find the ground where the gold came from initially, they're like, well, I'll just take your gold artifacts and melt them down and so forth. Which kind of sucks if you're talking about like, historical artifacts and so forth, to have it all melted down and put on ships and sent back to Spain. Glory. I don't know, just beating somebody, taking over. Hernan Cortez is going to get into a fight. You ready? Here's the story of Hernan Cortez in a fight with the Aztecs. And who is the leader for the Aztecs? Montezuma. Montezuma. Actually it says Moctezuma. Take your pick. Montezuma, Moctezuma. He is the all-powerful leader of the Aztec Empire. And these Aztecs are tough. They are fighters. And their capital city, Tenochtitlan. If you were to go to Tenochtitlan today, take a look at the map here. Raise your hand if you can tell me what very important Mexican city is located actually on the same place that the Aztec capital city, Tenochtitlan, was. I'll give you a clue. What very famous Mexican city is located on that? And I've actually given you the answer in the question that I gave you. Yes? Mexico City. Yep. If you go to Mexico City today, it's actually on the region of where Tenochtitlan was. Put this down about the Aztecs. They were big, they were powerful, they were advanced. For people in the Americas. Did they have guns? No, they had not developed gun technology and so forth. Europeans had, with the help of the people around them in Asia and so forth. Did they have disease resistance? Oh my gosh, this is going to be a big one. No. Europeans have more disease resistance. Europeans have more herd immunity to nasty diseases like smallpox. Not complete herd immunity and so forth, but put this down. Native populations had like zip, none. As we'll see, because I'm going to have you watch a video on this, those kinds of diseases spread from animals, large animals like cows and pigs and so forth. Do you know how many cows and pigs they had in the Americas before the arrival of Europeans? None. The biggest domesticated animal they had was in Peru, and it was a llama. They didn't have horses and pigs and cows and things like that. That's where a lot of the diseases jump from to enter into the human population. And so Europeans had a lot of experience on that. So in fact, put this down, write this down. Even before Hernan Cortez arrived with his army, people in that region were dying. They were dying from disease. Their first exposure to smallpox just kills them. I mean, just by way, do you remember what percentage of the population of Europe roughly died from the Black Death? About a third, yeah. Anybody know what the percentage of the population of the Americas is going to die from European diseases and so forth? Yeah, 95% or so, yeah. Okay, so disease is actually going to weaken the Aztecs even before Hernan Cortez arrives. But he's going to show up. He's got soldiers on horses. That's intimidating. Write that down. The Aztecs didn't have horses. The Spanish had horses. That's intimidating. They got guns. And they've got a desire to beat the Aztecs. They want to beat the Aztecs. They want to control all that. By the way, spoilers, who's going to win? Spain or the Aztecs? Spain. In fact, it's really interesting because have you guys ever been to Mexico? You guys ever been to Mexico? You want to go to Mexico? Right? It was quite a bit of time. It's cool. I mean, it's cultural and all kinds of various different things and so forth. But when you go to different parts of the world, you have to be careful not to just necessarily just like drink whatever's available or eat whatever's available, because sometimes there might be like foodborne or some kind of waterborne diseases. They actually refer to it in Mexico as Montezuma's revenge on people of European descent. They drink the water and then they get like really bad case of like diarrhea and so forth. Because Montezuma is going to lose. Write it down. Montezuma is going to lose in his fight against Hernan Cortez. But here's what you need to know, which is actually a little bit surprising. Because Montezuma has a lot more men in his army than Hernan Cortez. Yes, Hernan Cortez has got soldiers and horses and some guns, and he's got steel weapons like swords. But he's got something else on his side. You ready? Write this down. He's got the advantage of a surprise attack. He's going to outmaneuver Montezuma. He literally is going to try and get close enough to Montezuma. Do we have a Montezuma volunteer in here? Are you Montezuma? No? Are you Montezuma? Sure, you're Montezuma. Hernan Cortez gets close enough. Write this down. He gets so close to Montezuma that he kidnaps him and takes him hostage. Actually, it's in the middle of the city. It's kind of hard to kidnap like the emperor and take him hostage in the middle of the city because you got all these Montezuma supporters, all these Aztecs around Montezuma. And Hernan Cortez has now taken him. And he says to Montezuma, do you want to live? Do you want to live? Montezuma wants to live. All you Aztecs out there, your Montezuma wants to live. So, should they do what you tell them to do? Yes, do what Montezuma tells you to do. And you're like, well, what is Montezuma telling us to do? Hand over all your gold. Write it down. You need to fill this room with gold up to like this, like I don't know, shoulder high or something like that. Because Hernan Cortez is like, I came all this way. I'm going through all this risk. I want gold. And so they do. They fill the room with gold. It's like a ransom. The people, the Aztecs, fill the room with gold thinking that's going to pay, and then therefore the life of their leader is going to continue on. So what does Cortez do after he gets all the gold? What's he going to do after he gets all the gold? That would be a violation of their word, wouldn't it? That's exactly what they do. They kill him anyway. Because they want the gold and they want the territory. Okay? Wow. Clever maneuvering. There's one little thing that doesn't always come out in the story. Sometimes when you look at history, you're like, this is just a battle between, boom, the Spanish on the one side, boom, the Aztecs on the other, boom, and the Spanish win. It's not quite as simple as that. Are you ready? Spain had allies. You know what an ally is? Are allies with you or against you? They're with you, okay? Spain had allies from the Americas. Take a look at this map here. The light green is the Aztec Empire. It's actually kind of weird because you got these little pockets of like non-Aztec Empire. I mean, it's like if you were living like in this little pocket here or this little pocket there. I mean, like, are you a super powerful like region that's been able to stand up against the Aztecs? The answer actually is no, because this has to do with Aztec religion. In Aztec religion, blood sacrifices must be made on a regular basis to the gods. Otherwise, the gods will not show favor upon you. And so therefore, blood sacrifices must be made, right? You need to have the blood sacrifices. Well, you're not going to sacrifice your own people. No. You sacrifice this neighbor. You go and attack them like, I don't know, every 10 years or so, you know, whatever the time period is. They literally would refer to those as flower wars. It really sucks to be the neighbor because you're like, oh, great, here come the Aztecs again. They're going to beat us. And then they're going to take away a bunch of our young people. And what are they going to do with a bunch of the young people? They're going to drag them up to the top of the very high pyramids, like right here, the Pyramid del Sol, the pyramid to the sun. And they're going to take a sharp object held by a priestess and rip open their chest cavity and take out their beating heart and offer it to the gods. Kick the body, boom, 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 down the rest of the pyramid and keep doing that in succession, succession, succession. Because these are very important gods, so how many people are going to be sacrificed? Lots and lots and lots. So who really hates the Aztecs? Yeah, the neighbors. And so when Cortez comes along and he's looking for allies, the neighbors are actually going to help Cortez defeat the Aztecs. It's one of those weird things in history. You guys discovered this already. Who are the people that sell Africans as slaves to Europeans so that the Europeans can take them across the ocean and put them into captivity and to work on farms? Did we do this last time? Who sold me slaves? Did you sell me? You did. Where'd you get the slaves for that the European sea captains bought?
From my neighboring tribe.
Wow, that was nice. What did I give you so that you could go conquer them?
Give me weapons.
Like weapons that you could use against them. Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of those weird things that you get in history. So, the Spanish will control what ultimately is going to be known as the country of Mexico. Okay? They're going to establish church, Catholic missions and so forth around there, and they're going to be in charge. Boom, the big empire. The biggest empire in North America, right here, the Aztecs, it's going down fast to the Spanish. Francisco Pizarro, write his name down. Who is he? Oh, he's another conquistador. And he has his sights set on South America. He is going to go after a guy by the name of Atahualpa. And who is Atahualpa? Atahualpa is the Inca, who is the head of the Incan Empire. Inca actually means the leader. Okay? So Atahualpa is the leader of the Incan Empire. And you can see the Incan Empire at the time the Spanish bumped into it. They're doing pretty good. This is the biggest empire in South America. It's not the I'm going to say it's not the only place that South Americans, native populations were living, but they were the biggest deal at the time. Very advanced. Let's see, did they have very good disease resistance? No. Did they have horses for their military? No. Did they have steel weapons like swords? No. Guns? No. Did they have a lot of soldiers? Yes. Did they have confidence? Yes. Did they have neighbors that loved them? Not all the neighbors. The Spanish, write this down, the Spanish will also ally themselves with people that hated the Inca, because the Inca were tough fighters. And when they established their empire, they beat up a lot of the neighboring tribes and so forth. And so Pizarro ultimately is going to get some help. Pizarro is going to get some help from some of those neighbors. And you know what? He's got a really, really good idea. Raise your hand if you can tell me, where did he get this idea? See, here's his idea. He's going to get close enough to Atahualpa, and he's going to grab hold of him, and he's going to hold his life in ransom until the Inca provide enough gold and silver. Where did he get that idea? He got it from Cortez. Cortez wrote it down in a book. And Pizarro read the book, and he's like, this could work. And it did. And he is going to defeat Atahualpa. He is going to get lots and lots of gold from Atahualpa. And guess what's going to happen to Atahualpa after all the gold is provided? Yeah, they kill him. Okay? And then they continue the conquest. And within Pizarro's lifetime, they will establish Spanish control, taking away all the Incan Empire territory and lots of other territory as well. Wow, the Americans aren't doing a very good job as the Europeans are coming in. Kind of sucks for them. In fact, let's see. Yeah, let's go ahead and look at the big map here. Let's round it out as far as Spain's territorial control. Whoa! Spain will have large parts of the Americas. In fact, Spain will have almost all of South America. Now make a note of this. Spain and Portugal, they started to sort of butt heads with each other a little bit, and they're like, hey, we're starting to run into each other a little bit. And they realized, make sure you write this down, they shouldn't go to war. They decided, let's not go to war. Sometimes among these 5 different countries, sometimes they go to war, Britain and France, sometimes they don't, Spain and Portugal for the most part. And here's how they solved it. Spain and Portugal are both Catholic countries. They both have Catholic monarchs. Raise your hand if you can tell me, who would be a good person that the Spanish monarch and the Portuguese monarch could go to sort of intervene and come up with a good compromise between Spain and Portugal? Nobody can think? Yes? Exactly, write it down, the Pope. They go to the Pope. And the Pope actually looks at the maps that have been provided, and they look and they got this whole world map thing. And you ready? Here's basically what the Pope said. Okay, Spain, I'm going to draw a line from the north all the way down to the south. And it's going to be sort of this north-south line. And everything to the west is yours, Spain. Write that down. Everything to the west. So according to the Pope, and Spain is not arguing, Spain gets all of North America. Let the British and the French agree with that. They won't. But not all of South America. This is interesting. Make sure you write this down. Portugal, on one occasion, they had a ship that went way out into the Atlantic Ocean, and it bumped into South America. And so they claimed it. This is fairly early on in the process. Because usually Portugal's going around down south, but this one went way out, boom. And it came into, write this down, Brazil. Portugal claimed it, and they got to keep it. So the biggest, most populous colony, ultimately, and country in South America is Brazil. What language do they speak? They speak Portuguese, yeah, because they were part of the Portuguese Empire. Okay? The Pope also said, okay, everything to the east. So some of this area along the coast of Africa, Portugal will establish control. And we talked about that last time. They want to make sure they got fresh water, supplies, and so forth along there. And, it's kind of like, I don't know, one year the Portuguese show up and they're like, hey, we got to buy some more slaves. And you're like, we're going to sell them to you at a higher price. And we're like, forget that. And Portugal just takes them over. So you're like, what? I thought I could deal with you. Trust me, in time, the Europeans are going to take over just about everything in Africa. I mean, there's one thing at this time that actually prevents Europeans from going deep into Africa. Have you guys ever thought, you want to go deep into Africa? If you ever went deep into Africa, what would you need to make sure you had? Water. Okay, what would you need to make sure you had so you didn't catch any tropical diseases? If you guys want to catch malaria, malaria is really bad. That would really make you sick, could kill you. You got to get your shots. When they start developing, like shots, inoculations against tropical diseases, it's not going to happen until later in the 1800s. And when you get Europeans later in the 1800s getting their shots, they're going to go, hey, Africans, we're coming in the interior. We're going to take over. But in the earlier years, they mostly just stay along the coast because it's a little bit too dangerous for them to go in because they don't have resistance to tropical diseases. The Africans may have those resistance. Okay, so Portugal is going to have that. This part over here. Spain has got the Philippines. Get that? So Spain will conquer the Philippines. All right, now, let's get the late arrivers. This is where your handout's going to be very helpful as far as the bullet points go. The late arrivers. Let's deal with the Dutch first. The Netherlands. You can hardly even see it on the map here. It's north of France. Those were the ones, the folks that are more, they tend to be more Protestant. They were the ones that were fighting for their independence against Spain. And they got it in 1618. So here's the Dutch. Check this out. For a little teeny tiny country, they're going to do very well. They're going to send their ships out, and their ships are going to be built, follow the same Portuguese model, with cannons and with cargo bays and the ability to, they're going to come sail around. Oh, write it down. They take the tip of South Africa. Write it down. The Portuguese take the tip. The Cape, the Dutch, the Netherlands, sorry. The Portuguese had been there. Here come the Dutch. This is where you're going to see the first rivalry. It'll be really interesting to see. You guys are up for war, aren't you? Because some of you guys are going to be Portuguese, some of you are going to be Dutch, and some of you guys are going to be like, oh, well, we won't fight with them, and other ones are going to go, we will fight with you. We'll see how you guys play it out. Will the Dutch honor the fact that the Portuguese had laid claim to the southern tip of South Africa? Nope. The Dutch move in. Write it down. They will colonize it. And actually, this is interesting. Sometimes when you get the Europeans show up, they come in with people. And we're going to see lots of Spanish and Portuguese. Heck, the British and the French are going to send over people as well. Will the Dutch send in their own people to live in South Africa? Anybody know? Will there be white settlement in South Africa? You're nodding your head up and down? Absolutely, write that down. In the, I want to say like in the 1600s, you're going to have Dutch people arriving. And here's an interesting thing. South Africa is not like much of the area to the north. Let's see if we can get a little bit of a sense of it here. Okay. South Africa is about like halfway between the equator and the South Pole. Halfway between the equator and the North Pole is the Netherlands, and like even Idaho. If you live in the Netherlands and you go to South Africa, do you notice much difference in the way of climate and temperature? If you're going from the Netherlands, as you go to the equator, it's getting hotter and hotter and hotter, but as you head further south away from the equator, it's getting cooler. How about that? A lot of the Dutch who move to South Africa find it's very nice for them. South Africa has a, shall we say, a European-like climate. If you headed into like the Congo region in the central part of Africa, that's more tropical. But it's going to be very conducive. So you're going to let a lot of white people moving in to the southern part of Africa. What language do they speak? Dutch. Eventually, if you go there today, they speak a derivative of Dutch called Afrikaners, or Afrikaans. They'll be known as Afrikaners. And they've been living there for a long time. Just as far as South Africa is concerned, guess which country comes along later on and says, hey, Dutch, move aside. We're taking charge now. Anybody have any idea? It's not going to be the Portuguese, because they got kicked out. It's not going to be the Spanish. They're involved elsewhere. It's the British. Yeah, it's the British. It's the British. So in fact, here's one. I don't know if I would even be here speaking to you if it wasn't for the fact that the British took over South Africa from the Dutch. And so the white Dutch aren't really happy about the white British showing up and taking charge, but, you know, that's just how it's going to play out. So what am I talking about? White British in South... Oh, my mom, who's a stage actress in England, took a contract to do plays with a company that went to South Africa. And there she was doing plays when another person, all the way up from Idaho, who's touring Africa, meets her, sees her in a play, proposes, and then eventually she says yes, and da-da-da-da, here I am. Who's in charge of South Africa today? Are the whites in the absolute majority in South Africa today? No. What is the majority population in South Africa today? White, light-skinned? Dark-skinned. I'll just throw this out to you. Anybody know the name of the first black president of South Africa? He was actually held in prison for many years while the whites were in charge. Perfect. Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela. And here's a weird story for you. Once upon a time, one of my mother's friends in theater in South Africa tried to help Nelson Mandela from being captured by the police. He posed as a chauffeur, a black chauffeur for this white guy who was in the theater. And they're driving around all over the place evading capture. Eventually, the South African police figured it all out. They pulled him over, and Nelson Mandela was thrown into prison for like 20-some years. Eventually, they let him out. They allowed everyone to vote in South Africa. And lo and behold, he was elected president. Okay? So, interesting stuff. South Africa. Okay? Here's the main area that the Dutch are going to be interested in. Write it down. In your notes, you've got it as Indonesia. That is going to be the name of the country today. It's a very big country comprised of lots of different islands here as the Indian Ocean turns into the Pacific Ocean. They also refer to it as the Dutch East Indies. And the Netherlands is going to be like, man, we can make some big bucks controlling that particular territory. Anybody have any idea? What kind of stuff can you get from the Dutch East Indies as far as trade goods? Do you know? I'll give you a clue. Back in those days, they didn't have very good refrigeration. So if you wanted stuff to taste good, particularly meat, you needed to add this to it. Salt is a good thing too, but salt, you know, that's nice. That helps preserve it. And you can get salt from other places as well. Africa was a good source of salt. What else is going to add real flavor to the food? Spices is right. They would refer to those sometimes as the Spice Islands. So put this down. The Netherlands, they're going to focus most of their attention on Indonesia, what will be known as the Dutch East Indies, also known as the Spice Islands. That's where all the Spice Girls go. Just kidding. Those are the Spice Islands. Okay? All right. Let's see. We got the Dutch. Oh, the British. Ha ha! The British. Here we go. They're represented on this map as blue. They're going to send out voyages and so forth. And Queen Elizabeth, the original Queen Elizabeth, is going to encourage ships to go out and go to the New World. In fact, she's going to be like, hey, let's focus our attention on what's on the other side of the Atlantic. What are the British main focus going to be? The Caribbean and North America. The British will have their first British settlement, permanent British settlement, is in Jamestown, located in what is eventually going to be called the colony of Virginia. Who was Virginia named after? The Queen, the Virgin Queen, also known as? No, not Mary. Elizabeth, yeah, Elizabeth, the one who never married and never had any kids, as opposed to her half-sister, Bloody Mary, who got married and then got a tumor anyway. So, yeah. Okay? So, you're going to have Virginia and parts of North America. I mean, how many colonies eventually are the British going to establish there? I mean, do you know? I mean, it's kind of some random number. Anybody know the number of colonies? Yeah? 15? 13? Which is it? 13 or 15? You said 13. I didn't hear you properly. Write that down. 13. How'd you know 13? That seems so random. What a number. How would you know 13? How'd you know 13? I mean, like, oh, we commemorate by putting 13 stripes on there because the British established 13 colonies in North America? Oh, did those 13 colonies eventually tell Britain to take a hike and declare their independence and call themselves the United States of America? We did, right? We did. The British are also going to, write this down. You can't really see it so much from this map, but write it down. India, okay? India is going to be a main focus for Britain. They're going to get a foothold and they'll expand it and eventually they'll control pretty much all of India, okay? Now, so we got the Dutch, we got the British, we got the Portuguese, who are leaving out? Who do we need to do? France. As it turns out, Britain and France had similar objectives. North America. France comes into North America. They establish control in Canada. Some of their earliest settlements in a place called Quebec, which is incorporated and so forth. You find the city of Montreal. Canada. They also will start to move into parts of India. Do you see a rivalry potentially developing here? Like we already talked about this. Which two European countries are going to go to war with each other over their possessions in India and North America? Which two European countries are going to fight over who controls India? Britain and France. And they're going to fight in North America too, Britain and France. Who wins? British. Yeah, the British do. The British do. Okay? The British do. Okay? Next time, we'll talk about the Columbian Exchange, and then we'll get into war. Okay? You guys will be up for that? All right, very good. Got to a good spot. So wipe her down. Head on out as soon as you're